rim tonight turned into transition opportunities for them. How much of that was a factor in what happened tonight?
I think our lack of inefficient offense caused us to put a ton of pressure on our defense. And so they had 20 points in transition, which were the number one transition defensive team. But inefficient offense, there was a missed shot, missed layup, turnover. I thought our bad offense impacted our defense. And so, we didn't get a 25-point quarter, but we had a 26-point quarter in the first. And we were defending pretty well in the half court, but just our inefficient offense just continued to put pressure on our defense. And then, by that time, our defense waned. So I thought the Clippers played a well-balanced, game throughout.
Yeah, it seemed like the defense was kind of good to start.
Yeah.
Then you started giving up second chances, and then you just kind of stopped playing defense.
Exactly.
Was that a result of – is that just one of those games where the misses – you turn into frustration on the other end?
I don't think frustration. I think more like lack of, I don't know, whatever the case may be. But you're essentially right. It's kind of how the game went. Half-court defense in the first quarter was really good. Gave up, I think, a 3 to Coffee, a 3 to Man. But our inefficient offense put pressure on our defense, and then our defense kind of cracked. And I thought that's kind of how the game went.
And so what went into the inefficient offense?
Missed shots, missed layups. I thought they did a good job of messing up the timing of every one of our passes with their active hands. And so what looked like a guy open, we missed it a half a second because of their activity and their active hands. And it kind of messed up the timing and rhythm of our offense, which especially when we got into the paint. But yeah, I just thought we missed shots, and I thought they forced us to execute, and they played well.
You expected the switching, Joe. Obviously, Kristaps being out impacts your ability to attack that. But you're 10-2 without Kristaps this year. What were some things you were able to do in other games against switching that you weren't able to do here?
Make shots. I think that helps, I would say, regardless of what kind of shot it is. And so, like I said, I think one of the strengths of this team is at moments of inefficient offense, we still had really good defense, and some of that defense would get us back into it, creating some transition opportunities tonight. Not so much, So against teams like that, you have to continue to fight for possessions of speed, possessions of creating separation, and at some point you got to make shots. So it's a layup, 3, pull up. Just got to be more efficient on the offensive end. But I think their defense, their activity impacted that for sure. Yeah,
were they doubling? Like, what kind of disrupted some of the passes?
Well, their big was up, and they did a good job of shrinking the floor. And like you said, there's 2 guys open, but the timing of the pass didn't get there in time, and then they were able to recover back to keep it 5-on-5. So they quickly got back to 5-on-5 situations, and then they did double, which kind of forced us into rotations. But let's be honest, I thought. The third quarter, we got our butts kicked. In the first half, I thought we got really good looks, and we didn't make them, and that kind of put pressure on our defense.
When your offense is in a rhythm or you guys are hitting your threes, you always have...
And layups.
That helps, too.
Let's not forget.
It hurts, too. You can go to cross-match hunting. Like you have the two-man actions, all that. So, Paul George especially, his defense was great in those last 2 quarters. So when that isn't working, what are you trying to tell them about, like, what you can look for?
Well, it just depends, right? Like, if you're not going to make open shots against a good defensive team, then you're not going to score. I think that's why the Clippers are also one of the... They're very similar. Like, we're very similar teams. They have switchable wings. They got physicality. They don't have a clear matchup that you can attack to create 2-on-1s. And so it's 2 very similar teams. That's kind of why, what they did to us tonight, we did to them a month ago, So against teams like that, you have to... do a great job of getting stops, getting out in transition. You got to make open shots, and then you got to fight for space and separation. But you got to continue to do it over and over again.
The transition defense, usually like the first guy back is backpedaling, and usually is able to keep everything in front of him. But tonight they were moving so fast that usually that guy was getting turned around. So,
well, you got to remember, transition defense is not its own entity, so it's a byproduct of other things, right? And so the 3 things that led to transition tonight were missed layups, deflected passes that messed up the timing of our offense, and the angle of our crashing. I think there was a few times where we crashed baseline side instead of towards the middle of the floor, where we got guys behind the line of the basketball, and our bad offensive rebound and spacing led to that. So, transition defense is a byproduct of those 3 things in tonight's game.
Final questions, Chelsea.
Against the Heat, you guys shot a season high from the field. How would you explain the extreme difference from today and a couple games ago? And then also, how do you make sure that this game doesn't linger on and move on from it?
Yeah. Well, the first question, I have no idea. Second question, you just the character of your team. I think, like I said, it's more about balance, right? And so to me, there's no coincidence that the two extremes happened one after another. And I think those can be gifts when you look at them properly and keep you balanced and keep you humble and just keep you in check, right? You're never as good as you think you are. You're never as bad as you think you are. And I think it's important. And we always talk about like adversity. But adversity is always looked at as like something negative happens to you. But like to me, one of the hardest things to do is like win consistently, right, all the time, and handle success. And that's just as hard as handling losing, is being able to handle success, right? So I think regardless, you just you focus on the character of your team, and our guys they'll bounce back.
You obviously have had some tough shooting nights every now and then, but generally the offensive rebounding and second chance points have kind of helped you out in those situations. I don't think you had a second chance point until like late in the third quarter.
Yeah.
In this one, you alluded to angles.
Poor crashing angles.
Yeah. What kind of were you seeing there?
Poor crashing angles. That's when you don't get the crashing angle, you don't get the you don't get the rebound, and you don't make it 5-on-5, and so you have two guys behind the level of the ball instead of being in front of it, and that kind of gets them out into advantageous situations.